write a lot about Christmas and then decide
No,
to write this book, or
no.
which way did it happen?
It happened another way.
Chicken or egg?
What happened is, in the book, the last story in the book is about how it had been many years since I had been very Christmassy, like, and that was because there were many reasons there in the book, and I realized I wanted, I was now in a relation, happily domesticated. We built a house. I had a gravel driveway and a washing machine, all the things I never had as a kid. That comfort, and I wanted a tree. So I felt like I was in the after of my life. All the horrible before things had already happened, and this was now after. And the day after putting up the tree, the house flooded. The sink sprayer burst, but it was a flood that was it was a very damaging flood. So it wasn't like we could just scoop it up with paper towels. So I thought that event, I thought, man, of course it would happen. It's just like I should have friggin' predicted it. There is no after in my life. This is my life. This is how it happens. And it made me think about how this stupid holiday, Christmas, it's always been my favorite holiday. And without fail, or at least that I can remember without fail, each one has been even worse than the one that happened before. And it's almost as if, it's like I'm on a set of rails. It's that predictable. So I thought I should write about that because it's crazy. It's crazy, and I cannot be the only person who has this like Christmas curse. So then I wrote. That's where it started. Then I wrote. I've always even though, it's not like, what I didn't want to do was create a book that was like making fun of Christmas,
right,
because that's easy. It's sort of the shooting fish in a barrel thing. We all get that it's consumer. We get all the kooky, quote unquote stuff about Christmas. I didn't want that kind of book. And I also didn't want some just funny book. Well, at first I did, but then I didn't, because it's not just funny. People, even if they have a great Christmas with family, when you're with your family, you're thinking things like, are we like other brothers and sisters? Do they argue like we do? Or do they argue and we never do? Is the fact that we never argue, is that okay? People, you get introspective. You can't help it because you're away from your job. And as much as we like to pretend to be balanced, we're not balanced. No one's balanced. So, you're probably thinking a little bit about work. So other thoughts and those are the best circumstances. For many other people, it's just a devastating time. They lost their father or their mother or their favorite aunt. They lost their husband or their wife or their lover, or they lost a child at this time of year. Or it's there are millions of reasons why it's a terrible time of year. So it's just not always happy. And in my experience, they were always horrible, but I always loved them. And yet, even though they were horrible, there seemed to be a common denominator, which I guess comes from me, seeing it. It's not really that my life has been so extraordinary. Some events have. It's really more that I pay very close attention to things. I'm amazed by people who tell me, oh, I never had really much of anything. And then when you prod a little bit, you see, actually you did. People just, when you get too close to something, you don't really recognize the beauty of it or the significance of it. But I digress. Even in my most awful holidays, there's always been something beautiful and shiny and small right there in the center of it. There always has been. And this last holiday in the book, not my last actual holiday, those have all been much worse, and this one's shaping up to be the very worst of all. In fact, it can be nothing but the very worst. But to the point of the book, in that time, that was my worst holiday, and it was also my best.